Today's a big day. We have a hearing today before the Judiciary Committee on a bill to abolish the death penalty. I've asked Senator Regala to run this bill. I've run this bill in the past. Its purpose is very simple: to stop killing people because they in turn killed others.
The reality is, from my perspective, that when we want to ensure public safety, we can do that by giving someone a sentence of life without the possibility of parole. They are then in prison for the rest of their life. The public is safe. And another aspect of this that I want people to understand is I am not speaking in theory. Excuse me. I am someone who has lost a family member to murder. I know the pain. I understand that. But I think that all of us will agree that what we want first is to have the perpetrator caught and to be incarcerated and to be off the street so it doesn't happen to someone else. Again, that's accomplished by having life without the possibility of parole.
We should understand that the death penalty, which was sold as a deterrent to future crime in part, is not. We have a relatively low and declining death rate in our state, murder rate in our state. States that actually have the death penalty, however, generally do not. The death penalty does not deter capital crime.
Nobody can prove that after you execute somebody that somehow you give that family, the murder victim's family, peace. And nobody can argue that, as Senator Kline said, that the streets are made safer for the public or for police officers because we execute people. The only argument that is left for those proponents who want the death penalty is that of revenge. An eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. And we know what Martin Luther King said. So we're going to be a toothless, blind society. Because when do we stop?
We must do whatever we can in any sector, in any corner of this nation to stand up against the death penalty. Not only because of the errors that could be made, but also because we're a society that deserves forgiveness too. And I say that we're a society that deserves forgiveness too because we can't ignore the conditions that so many live under when they commit horrendous acts. Where were we when they were in kindergarten, when they were in first grade, when they were abused by whomever it may have been? When they were locked out, left out of societal opportunities, where were we then? We hear about 2.4 million. We hear about the allocation of resources to killing someone. And frankly, August 8, 2005 is a day I'll never forget. Why? Because my brother was killed. He was shot down on a corner. And after the pain subsided, after all of the pain, well, it never subsides. But as rationality starts to creep in, I start to think, what about that child? How did that child live? What could we have done differently? How come we weren't there when we were when he was 5, when he was 7, when he was older? How come we didn't have more counselors? How come we didn't have more counseling, health care, and the like? Perhaps it's because we were busy spending $2.4 million per person on killing someone rather than focusing on how they lived. It's time for the death penalty to be abolished in the state of Washington, to follow suit with Oregon, to follow suit with Illinois, and to follow suit with so many other states that now are at the place where they recognize that we deserve forgiveness too for our failure to reach out to kids in pain.
The state should not be in the business of killing people. There's a moral element to this. But the reason that I think is going to be most persuasive isn't just a moral reason. These years, because of our budget problem, there's a fiscal reason. Capital trials cost so much money in terms of the prosecution and the defense, the additional work required of both, the mandatory appeals. We're talking $2.5 to $3 million per case. We can't afford to continue to do that. Small jurisdictions can't do that at all. And we shouldn't have, more importantly, the geographical distinction that finds that Eastern Washington defendants, same crime, same number of priors even, are more likely to get the death penalty than in Western Washington. It depends on which county you live in. A penalty this drastic should not depend on geography or on any kind of random chance like that. It should not depend on race or economic circumstance. But the fact is that the people most likely to be arrested for crimes generally, not just capital, are low-income people. There are many more people of color in that population, not simply because of any difference in their, between the races in the persistence of crime, but simply in the ability of prosecution to go after them and to convict them. These kinds of distinctions are bad enough at any place in the criminal justice system, but nowhere worse than when it comes to death. I don't know that we're going to be able to do this year. If we don't, we'll do it next year, or the year after that, or the year after that. We will get this done.